everyone. Welcome back to the 1 Hour series. My name is Julia Gorban, and today we have another casting director on our stream, Alison Franck. Alison is a New York-based casting director, but I'll let her introduce herself a little bit more. So without further ado, let's welcome Alison.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Alison Franck. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in New York City.
You're in New York right now, right?
I
Yes.
am. I live on the Lower East Side, and I am currently in my apartment where I work. And I mainly cast musicals, and I mainly cast non-union tours right now. In the history of my casting, I started off as an intern. One summer after I finished an equity contract, I decided I didn't want to act anymore. And I decided to start interning at different casting offices. And the first one that I started working for was Johnson Lift Casting, which is where Tara Rubin is from. And also they cast many of the projects that she currently casts. So they were working on Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis, Cats, Sunset Boulevard. This was a few years ago. Sunset Boulevard, Victor Victoria. I'm trying to think what else we did when I was there. And a lot of new musicals while I was there. We did Big and Steel Pier and Sideshow. And is that mainly it? And then we did a lot of off-Broadway stuff as well. And the first musical I ever sat in on as an intern, not even an assistant, was Songs for a New World, the very first production of it. So that was sort of like one of my favorite stories, is that I sat in on those auditions. And that was like Jason Robert Brown's like first thing, like it was the first thing he did. So that was exciting. He was super young. He was like 12. And he wasn't 12. He was like 20. He was really like 22, 3, something like that. And then I did I was at Johnson Lift I ended up getting hired as an assistant there after several months of being the intern who wouldn't leave. And I ended up there for several years, and I started doing some television series with them. And then I worked in television. I left there in '98 to work on a couple of TV series. And I worked with a woman named Jill Greenberg. And we did a TV series called Late Line that Al Franken wrote and starred in. And also I did a pilot season with her, which one of the pilots I did was Freaks and Geeks. We did the New York casting. Allison Jones from Los Angeles, she's a big casting director. She was the real casting. She was the LA casting director. And then she cast the series because the pilot casting has New York and Los Angeles casting, but usually when the series goes up and running, then it's just like one casting director does episodics. And a lot of their casting was out of Vancouver because it was filmed in Canada. And then I did that for several years. I was freelancing in a lot of television. I did a couple more TV series, a couple of pilots. And then I ended up in working at Paper Mill Playhouse from the year 2000 until 2010. I was a resident casting director there. And after that, I did commercials and brought my theater jobs with me to Liz Lewis Casting. And I did some animation, voiceovers, and commercials with her, as well as my theater. And then I have been doing these non-union tours on my own for several years. Like since 2014, I kind of left Liz Lewis and went out on my own. And I've been mainly doing these tours.
All right, thank you for the intro. That's a lot of work that you've done. Yes, I saw that you were
doing
doing
half my life in casting.
in casting, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw in your bio that you've done some TV and film. So technically, if people have questions for TV and film casting, are you okay answering those, or would you rather
Yeah,
just
I mean, the main thing that I want to mention is back when I was doing film and TV, like for years on end.
Yeah.
We didn't have a very things were like taped and mailed. Like we would have auditions that we would videotape and we would mail them to people like overnight, FedExing the day to Los Angeles. Like, so if we were doing, so like it's very different now because things are super immediate. And when I went back to do commercials, we did a lot of on-camera stuff, which is similar. It was right then and there. Like you could film it and it's done and you send the link and everybody can see everything. So it's a little bit more immediate than it used to be. So that's the main difference. But otherwise, the thing about television is especially for pilot season, because I did a couple of them, is they just want to see tons and tons of people, right? They want to make sure they're seeing everybody. And I think for theater, we want to see tons and tons of people, but it's a different kind of talent pool, especially when you're doing musicals, because people have to sing and they have to dance. And so that eliminates some actors, you know.
Oh, for sure,
yeah. Their own art. Their own artworks. They're I mean, it's all coming from the same point of like telling a story and acting, and you have to act through dance and you have to act through song and you have to act through words. But technically you have to be a technical dancer and a technical singer. Like you have to be able to do certain things with your body that you can't just wake up and be able to do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, as always, I'd like to start with the following question. Are there any tips or general things you can tell actors to like do's or don'ts to have a successful audition?
The number one thing I think you want to do is, I mean, besides preparation, because we assume preparation is happening when you're given an audition, but you know, have your own choices, having your own point of view, and make strong choices. Like I think the number one thing people do that they think if I do too much, that'll eliminate me. But if you don't do enough, that could also eliminate you. So I'd say that like making strong choices, but being flexible. So like if you get a redirect, it means they liked you and they liked what you did. And they want to see if you're directable. So even if you made all the great choices in the world, you want to be flexible. So I'd say that's the number one tip I would say for a successful audition is to make strong choices, but to also be adaptable. In terms of the business side of it, I want actors to know that they should apply for the jobs they know they want, right? Not just to apply for a job. So like, I've witnessed it, and you know, it's been so much easier with the self-taping, I hate to say it, to figure out who really wants the job or not, because if you ask them to self-tape, they won't if they don't want the job, and if they do, they will. Like that's pretty much how we can sort of determine who wants it. We are watching them, believe me, we're watching them. We may not watch everything, but we're watching just enough to let us know. So like if there's 3 or 4 scenes, or there's a dance and then there's a song, and then there's like 20 things I'm asking for a musical, I'm going to start with what I know I need. I need the dance. So I have to see that. Okay, they're good. Let's see the singing. Let's see the singing anyway. The dancing was okay. Let's see the singing anyway. Okay, that's good. Let's read the scene. Let's see their slate. Like I may not even watch the slate first, because and those are like the things that like, those are just like a couple of things. Like I may not watch the entire song, but if I like you, send. Right. I may fast forward to the high note, you know, that might happen in order to get through it all. But once I've made selections, I usually will rewatch everybody again. But I have to get the people out. I have to get the good people out that I know that the creative team will want to see. And then I'll go back and rewatch everything. But if I'm in a hurry, I'm going to do it that way. But everybody gets watched. Does that make sense? Everybody gets watched.
That's good to know. That's good to know, because we've had on these streams people are like, "Oh, are you guys even watching our videos?
Yes.
Like, what's happening?"
Yes, we're watching them. They're also, you know what? These videos may take you like hours to make, but they don't take very long to watch, right? Because like they're short. So it's crazy because people think, oh, it takes as much time as they put into it to watch, but it doesn't, because they're short. We're not watching 20 minutes of auditions usually. It's like 5.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to watch.
Now, you mentioned the slate. I know
that's your name.
Different people.
Just in case you didn't know, that's your name. Yeah.
Different people have different preferences. And I know some people were like, okay, just literally record one slate and use it for all auditions. Some people are like, oh, we prefer something personal, something like, oh, hi, my name is blah, 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 and I'm auditioning for this role. Thanks for the opportunity. and I'd love to work with your theater, something like that, versus just some people just prefer, okay, just say your name so I know who you are, and
I usually say what I want. I usually just say what I want them to say. So I usually say your name, your height, your location, and are you available for the dates? I do that to make sure it's reiterated in their brain that if you're interested in this job, you're available for the show. You're available for a callback. You're available. So we know, or if you're not available, I at least know, like, you're available for the job, but you're not available for the callback. Everybody knows. Everybody who's seeing that video, when I send it off to creative, they'll be like, oh, I like her. She's not available for callbacks. I really want to see her. Let's see her when she's back. Or I really liked her. She doesn't really live in the area. I don't want to make her fly in. I think there's somebody who's more local who I'm more interested in. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way we think sometimes, because I don't want I don't want to have to either make my creatives spend the money, because we do that. We'll fly people in from out of town now, or I don't want them to spend the money, because I don't want them to think that I don't want, it's a lot of money. And if everybody's like, I kind of like them, they're okay. It just becomes a thing where we have to make that decision ahead of time, because we know that, like, if they're not local to New York City, there's a whole other stuff that will have to come with that.
Oh, for sure.
That actor. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
But sometimes we're totally cool with it. We're like, yeah, we'll fly him in. We're gonna take care. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. I guess it depends if they're really unique and fit the bill, and you were like, oh my God, this is the person for the role.
To not to harp on the reality of this industry, but if you're a white woman who's really talented, get in line. There's a whole lot of you, and so, I mean, it's when I have a breakdown that could be either any ethnicity or could be just white. Like, I'll have 4 million girls, like, so many, not 4 million, but 500. I look at 500 pictures and resumes for certain parts, for sure. And they're all good. Like, it's not like I can only delete them or not suggest them if they clearly have no musical theater training. And that's very rare. Usually they know exactly what they do. There's nothing wrong with any of them, So it becomes like, who gets their videos in, and after that, it's like one after another, and then I have to narrow it down, and it's really hard because everybody's good.
Yeah, I feel like that's especially true for the ingenue roles. It's like everybody in their 20s submits, and you probably get like thousands of submissions for the Cosettes and Les Mis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing that, but I mean, it's the reality is that there's this weird, there's just more. It's just more young women pursue this field than anybody else.
Oh yeah. I guess after you're older, by that time you might be like, oh, I give up on this. I can't get.
Or they become successful. So I'm seeing a lot of people who have just moved to the city and they still don't have their equity card, because I'm doing a lot of non-union tours. If they become successful, they get their equity card and they move on, and they're no longer eligible for my projects. Or if they're older, they maybe have switched gears and done more film and television, or started a family, and they only do things that are local. They can't tour, stuff like that. So I wouldn't say. I mean, I don't want to say like a lot of people give up on the business in their 30s, but I mean, I quit acting in my mid-20s, so I mean, I understand. I understand the desire to have nice things and not have to wait tables. Like, I understand that. I mean, that's part of the reason I stopped. Well, not really. I mean, part of the reason I stopped performing was I just didn't like touring. Isn't that funny that I cast tours and I hate touring? And I really felt like I got a lot of performing out of my system. I worked in a regional theater as an actress, and I did like 20 shows in 2 years, and my resume was packed, and I toured the country for 2 years. And after that, I was like, I need a break from this. I just think that there's something else for me in this industry. And it worked out, I became bossy. You know, the bossy, busybody aspect of me became much more useful as a casting director. As an actor, you can't boss people around. You'll get fired.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta listen to the directions, not give directions.
Yeah. Well, you really can't boss people around as a casting director either. You really have to be, you're working for the creatives. You're working for the director.
Yeah.
You're working for the choreographer. You're working for the producer. You're working for someone else. Your job is to the job. Your job is to help the actors get the job, but your job is really, you're working for the job.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times I think I get calls about work for a company or something, and they want me to give them my actors. And I'm like, I don't represent actors. I represent the job, right? And they don't quite understand that the casting director can call any actor, right? The whole world is for us. We can go shopping anywhere, you know? I mean, I have to strictly work with non-union, but like for most of my work, but the majority of my job is finding any talent, right? So I can look anywhere. But if somebody asks me to find actors for them, they think I have like a Rolodex of people I can just call. That I'm like, no, I have to know if they're available. I have to know how much money you're going to pay them. I have to know, like, I'm not going to hand you like 12 actors right now. You have to give me the job, and I put it out there to the universe, and I see who's interested. That's how I work. Yes, there are times when I just call people, but that's rare, you know, especially with non-union.
Yeah. Speaking of jobs as a casting director, we have a question from an audience member, which is,
Great.
He's an actor, but asked a casting director question. So Matt is asking, how does one get into casting? I'm an actor, but I'm super interested in working in casting.
I will let you know that the way I got into casting is the way most people get into casting, which is I volunteered as an intern. But back then there wasn't such a what do you call it? Like there's rules now that like if you're going to hire an intern or have an intern that they have to be in school. So if you're going to volunteer your time as an intern, it's hard to do it without some sort of like legal, like we have to have legal, you know what I mean? Like we can't let you come work as an intern if you're not in school, sort of thing. But what I often do is I have reader positions, or I have assistant positions, like monitoring auditions, and I usually pay people to do that. But it's not like a full-time job because I don't have like a full-time assistant. But there's like, you know, we don't pay a ton, but it's like minimum wage, $15 an hour.
Yeah, that's good because a lot of jobs are just like, oh yeah, come volunteer and
here's lunch. Yeah. I mean, sometimes that is the case, and that's up to the people who want to volunteer, but I can't advertise that.
Yeah.
But yeah, an internship, or you know, offering help whenever you can to any offices, and just seeing who picks you up for that, because the only way to really learn casting is by doing it. There might be a program. I think my old alma mater actually might have a casting program, but they were talking about it at Syracuse University, but like I don't know what happened with that. But when I was doing this, there was no school for casting. There was no way to learn how. That's part of the reason. Like when I was at Johnson Lift, they really took a risk on me. I knew nothing. I was an actress. I had no life skills. I had people skills. I'll give myself that. I knew how to answer a phone, and I knew how to take a message, but otherwise, like I didn't know how to type. Nobody really used a computer back then. That's how old I am. And then the internet was just sort of happening. Like we were faxing things for auditions. We would tape the sides to the door, and people would come and pick them up. That's how actors would get their materials for their auditions. We would make a ton of photocopies and then tape them to the door. We did have a Xerox machine, but collating would be fun. If the machine broke down, we'd like be on the floor collating. It was such a nightmare.
Oh man, I'm just you telling these stories. I'm just so glad I I wasn't
Yeah,
there for that part.
honestly, like things have gotten so much easier. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing how hard we had to work doing like
Yeah.
mundane things. That's why like it was fun being an intern because we used to like file the headshots
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And you could read the resumes, and now everything's online, so you can read the resumes online, but like it's not the same. It's not the same sort of like physicality of like filing and
Yeah.
it's just so like filing the pictures in the filing cabinets and the fax machine, and it's just so weird that we used to work that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what they did before the fax machine. They must have, it must
Just
have been handwritten. Yeah, the what is it when they did the caveman, the etchings?
Oh yeah, that right.
Headshots were
pretty sure
were
that's
etchings.
they gave scripts like during Shakespeare times. They gave scripts to actors. They had to like rewrite them multiple times.
That's how they learned all those lines, though.
Yeah, and apparently, actually, they only wrote your line and the line that came before.
That's what
your
sides
line.
are. That's what sides are. That's what sides really used to be. That's what they're called. So the sides are just your sides, but now we use that word as an all-purpose meaning for the script.
Exactly.
Sides used to just be your cue and your line.
Yeah, so you don't know what happened before. You're like, okay, I don't know what I'm reacting to here, but
No, I remember when I did plays through Tam's Whitmark, they always just gave us the sides.
Wow.
So you didn't know the rest of the play. You only knew your cue and your line.
Well,
and you'd be like really bummed when it was a really small one. You'd be like, you only have 5 lines? Yeah.
Yeah, this makes me feel happy that it's so much easier for us these days. You just Although about a year ago, I think this was during the pandemic, I saw an audition. I can't remember what it was or what theater it was for, but it said mail, like snail mail, the resume and headshot, 3 copies of each to this address. And I was like, oh, well, there should be an option to just email it. No, I was like, kept scrolling down and there wasn't. I was like, oh my gosh.
Some people don't want their emails, and some casting directors would prefer mail because they don't want their email inundated with headshots and resumes. And some people prefer email, like I do, because I work out of my house and I don't want my apartment. I don't want people to email me here. I mean, mail me.
Mail you.
Yeah, I don't mind them emailing me. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's not, that's what I'm here for. You know what I mean? Like, actors are allowed to email me. It's fine.
Now, regarding emailing you and reaching out, are you okay with, well, you said you're okay with actors emailing you, but what if someone is like, oh, I just want to introduce myself to you. I'm not interested in any specific project, but I want to send you my stuff to look at. Is that okay, or would you rather them wait for?
It's okay. It's just. I mean, I will be honest. It's totally okay to send your stuff. It's just not always helpful. Meaning, like I'll take the picture, I'll look at it, I'll look it over, and be like, oh, cool, and I'll put it in a file. I don't always know where to file it because I don't know when I'm going to need that, or there's a million things I get. So it's just like to keep you in my mind, right? If that's your mindset behind emailing me, fine, do it. Do whatever you want. Send whatever you want. Like have your weeklies, have your monthlies, have your seasonal, like MailChimp thing you send out or whatever. It's fine. There's a million ways for you to get in touch with me, but the number one thing for you to think about is, what is she doing now? What is she working on right now? What should I be seen for now that she's working on? Because if you do that research, you'll either know she doesn't do anything I'm right for, right? If you don't sing, there's probably not much for me that you can send me, right? If you don't dance, it's okay because I do things that don't dance, but like, you see what I'm saying? So like, I feel like, and if you dance and don't sing, you can still send it yourself. But like, if you're just a straight actor who does film and TV right now, my stuff isn't gonna be much good. Like you can send your stuff to me, but I don't necessarily have a play I'm working on or a film I'm working on or a commercial I'm working on right now. That's not what I mainly do. So, and I've been asked recently to do stuff like that, but I just wasn't available. So it could happen that I turn around and I'm doing something like that. It's just my timeline didn't permit for me to do it. So I was like, I can't do it right now. So it's basically what happens is I'll get a call for something like that, but if I'm already booked, I'm a one casting director, I have to turn work away sometimes, which I hate to do, but sometimes you just can't take every job.
Yeah, exactly. And
Timing.
actually, for those of you watching, if you'd like to follow and see what Alison's currently casting, her website and Instagram page will be on the end screen after we end the stream. If you'd like to go check it out, I believe right now, Alison, you have something posted on your website that you.
Yeah, the website isn't actually the website's not really updated. It says something about Teenage Musical, which is something that's on hold. Like it's gonna happen. I just don't know when. It keeps having so it's just on hold. So don't think that's happening right now. But I am currently casting an American in Paris, but and South Pacific in rotation. My Christmas Story cast just starting rehearsal on Monday. And I'm working on another project starting in December, which I can't say what it is yet. And then the other two projects I have are Simon and Garfunkel Story and British Invasion Live. So those are like rock concert musicals. But they're mainly musicians, singers, not necessarily actors. I mean, they're actors, but musical theater they have to play like rock. They have to play like guitar, drums, and keyboards and stuff like that, and sing like the people. It's very specific. So those are the things I'm working on right now. And I'm always working like the Simon and Garfunkel Story doesn't end, it keeps going. So I'm always working on that. And Christmas Story happens every year, so I'm always casting that every year, not every day of every year, but I usually start May of before we start fully, and then the callbacks usually are September, August, something like that, because they start rehearsal right about now and then they go out on tour for Christmas. It's a great tour. And also we hire 12 kids.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Oh yeah. And this year we hired 14.
Wow.
This year we hired more. Yeah, because of the COVID, we got a few more bodies in our show
just
because
in case,
we could.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Now speaking of casting, I guess not complex shows, but things that are, you said this actor has to play an instrument, sing, and also sing like the people. So it's sometimes you want them to also kind of look like the people as well.
Yep.
So if it's roles like that are hard to cast, or even American in Paris, because you have to be legit a ballet dancer and a musical theater performer. So how do you find people like that? Because I personally know a lot of ballet dancers, but they don't sing, or amazing singers, but they're not good enough dancers.
Well, one of the things that's pretty cool, not so much for the male lead in An American in Paris, but for the female lead, is that she sings just a tiny bit. So we can really focus on the ballet. They made sure that the way they constructed the show is she sings, but she doesn't have to sing like Julie Andrews. You know what I mean? She can just sing. She just has to sing. So but a lot of ballet dancers are beautiful singers. Yeah, we had to really work hard to find these girls. Women, sorry. I just call them girls because they're young. But ballet schools, ballet companies, you just put the usual stuff out and breakdown and backstage, and you say ballet dancer. You show that also with the self-taping, you give them the material to do, and if they can do it, they usually send it, and if they can't do it, they usually don't. So we're pretty much screening that way. And then we'd bring in a couple, normally we would have a big, actually I never had an open call for this. I always screened by their resumes because I really wanted to make sure that they had ballet. So the only difference is maybe I was bringing 30 women in the room at a time, and now we were bringing in 5 to 10 or 11. Maybe just no more than that. Just keeping it small.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Right. And then for the musicians, they have to, really show it all.
Oh yeah, you want them to play the actual instrument too. Yeah.
I mean, you can't fake that. That's the thing is you can't fake it. You can't fake it if we're watching a tape. You just can't.
Yeah, you can't fake being on point too. If you're like, I'm a ballet dancer, I can somewhat do point, and then
Oh
they
my
give you a
God,
combo,
that's
and you're
terrifying.
like,
It's terrifying to watch somebody who's not really on their toe shoes.
oh yeah, it's like, ah, you're gonna break your ankle. Stop it.
It's such a beautiful art form, but it's
Yeah.
very specific. Even me, who like I took ballet as a kid, but like I'm not a dancer at all, and I can tell just by looking at someone if they have some training. It's hard not to. I think even a novice could tell. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Sometimes you can fake it like, oh, well, here, I'm taking a picture in my ballet shoes and I look like a ballerina. And it's just a picture, you can fake it. But if it's a video, I find like you can see right away. You're like, okay, your feet are not turned out.
There's
you're not
too much. There's
box.
too much at stake. And it's so simple. Like it's so short. What we give them is like 20 seconds long.
Yeah.
And you know immediately.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
Now, a follow-up question about that. So, if someone, let's take American in Paris. If someone is not really a ballet dancer, but they're like, oh, I want to get seen anyway, and I will submit anyway. Would you rather have them not submit at all, or are you okay with them coming in to audition anyway?
I mean, we'll know immediate, like they'll get cut immediately if they can't keep up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I pretty much tried not to let that happen, more so with the women than with the men, because the men are harder to find.
Yeah.
I didn't really encounter too many people who are, I didn't let that happen because we didn't have open calls. So, I mean, we had maybe one open call for some men at one point, and there wasn't very many of them. Like they know, like most dancers know their skill set. I mean, sure, there was a couple people who had trouble with it and they didn't really have ballet, but they weren't bad dancers. You know, like it wasn't like they couldn't fake it, you know, but like we would know they were faking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I've seen like you've had like I'll have a singer call and then we'll have a dance call later for them, or like a movement call later for them for something else, like not for American in Paris, but for trying to think of like Legally Blonde is a show I'm going to be doing again. I've done it again and again, and I'm doing it again next year. And like there's going to be some people that are showing up at the singer call. We're going to come to the dance call. That's where you can sort of see, okay, so this person really isn't a dancer, but this person kind of is, or we can make this work. Like there's that kind of mentality. Let's do it again. Work on this. Here's another dance comedy. Like we keep figuring it out and narrow it down to the people who could really sing and dance. I mean, it's hard for certain shows. I also do a chorus line. We're doing it again, and we always do the dance call first. But there's a certain role in a chorus line that needs to be a fabulous singer. The role of Maggie, who sings at the ballet, and sometimes we'll just sing them and see who can, like, oh, she sings, her dancing is okay, and we'll keep them around if they can really sing it. But we've had Maggies who are amazing dancers, so that's not always the case.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I actually have a friend who's a dancer. He's like a ballet dancer, amazing, but he can't sing.
Right.
Like legit but he got cast in West Side Story at a Union Theater because first of all he's
an amazing dancer.
And
but he's an amazing dancer, and they can hide there's certain roles, there's certain tracks that don't ever have to open their mouths to sing that you know of. So there's going to be certain shows and certain roles where they're just going to, not have a microphone. It's just it happened.
Yeah.
Because they need the great dancer. They need somebody who looks that way. They need somebody who can lift people. They need somebody who just looks great on stage. There's enough other people who can carry the vocals. Mm-hmm. And sometimes with our non-union, we do some sweetening too, which we're totally allowed to do because there's no rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sweetening means there's a recorded track of somebody singing.
Yeah.
Not the lead, not for the leads, not for solos, but for like chorus numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that done in a bunch of theaters actually, just because you only have like 5 people in the chorus, but it needs to sound like there's.
Well, for certain shows, they have like a pit, like so the understudies in a chorus line sing in the pit or sing in the wings or wherever. I don't know wherever they sing, but they fill out the vocals for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So if there's a group number, there's extra singing. but they're live, they're singing live.
Yeah.
So for that show that happens, but that's always known to happen. And there's certain shows that have pit singers, like Saturday Night Fever on Broadway had pit singers.
Yeah, and I've heard of some like at least parts of Broadway shows being recorded as well, just because of like the technicality of like all the actors who sing it are going to have to be backstage, like changing into some other clothing, and
yeah, there's things like that happen all the time. It's just I don't know how much is I mean, there's still people singing live. It's not like everything's canned.
Oh,
right?
For sure. Yeah,
so there's still people singing live. Yeah. Right. No,
it's like but it's like 20 seconds here, 20 seconds there, where it's like doesn't make sense to sing live because they're literally like running backstage.
I mean, there are people I've hired who are amazing singers, but they had to be like pre-recorded for something because exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So it does happen. So I guess it's the point is it depends. Like if you're an amazing dancer but can't sing, they can still hire you. So you should. The point is you should still go to the audition, right?
For dancers, absolutely.
For dancers,
and I will say, can't sing has many different levels. Like can't sing is not. It's like so many dancers think they can't sing. They're just like, I don't sing.
Yeah.
They're terrified. And then you hear them and you're like,
you sing.
You're good. You can sing. You don't know what you can sing. You know, it's just about confidence. So it's usually like they don't have the right audition material. They don't read music. They don't know that they have a good ear. They've never done it before. It's just not, they're just not comfortable with it. That's different than like someone who thinks they can sing and they're terrible, you know, like that's different. And also like singers have different levels, right? So like there's opera singers, that's one technique, and then there's pop rock singers, that's another technique, and then there's different kinds of musical theater singers, some who are glorious singers, some who are good singers, but they're such good actors and such an interesting voice that they're stars, and there's just so many different levels of singing in this industry that you can't just label yourself anything, you know what I mean? Like there's room for all of it. That's what's amazing to me, is in musical theater, there's room for all of this musical. It's storytelling. We have to remember that musical theater is not just about singing. It's about acting. It's about telling a story. And so certain kinds of voices for certain kinds of shows are not going to make sense. Whereas another kind of, you know, it's all about also like, where does it take place? How old are these people? You know, like all sorts of things that make it feel, or what characters, what's their dialect, like all sorts of things that change. And so for me, like as I was a singer, but like I was not like, you know, I wasn't going to be a Phantom at the Opera anytime soon, but I was a musical theater singer. And so like I understand like different kinds of singing because of that. And I'm always shocked at how many people want to scream their face off and belt at an audition, which I used to do, you know, I was one of them. But like, I realized as a casting director over the years that like singing quietly is just as effective and it really can be beautiful. So like, nobody should feel that they have to be like a big screamy belter unless they are, you know, and if you are, good, you know, good for you. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's a lot of elements to singing that I think are much, and also everybody's mic'd now, so you don't need to blow out your vocal cords.
Exactly. Unless I guess that's what they're looking for. Sometimes they're like, oh,
no one should blow out their vocal, but no one should hurt themselves.
Yeah,
but you know, no one should damage their voices because.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, what I meant to say is like if they're looking for a power ballad and they want to show
absolutely,
your notes,
absolutely. I love a good belter. Don't get me wrong. I just don't feel like the need. You don't want to start at 10 and go to 20 in your song.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I just have to read Matt's comment because it's kind of funny. It's regarding the Matt, the same person who asked the question about how to become a casting director, is saying, okay, thank you. Also, are you hiring? LOL, I'll move. Because I believe Matt is in Chicago.
Oh, I'm not hiring right now. I have a couple of people that I'm working with, and they're freelancing because I don't have full-time work, unfortunately. Boo hoo. Maybe that will change. maybe
Yeah,
that
we're
will
still,
change.
the industry is still coming back too. So
Yeah,
we're
well, no, I
still,
mean, I've always been kind of a one-woman show, and like this past fall, I had to get a bunch of people to help me because I was overworked.
because we're too, yeah,
But it
way
was
too
a
much stuff.
temporary situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a question everybody wants to know. What are some mistakes actors make at auditions? And this includes both video auditions and in person. And how can they avoid them?
Um, um, biggest, I mean, I was saying this to you before we started. I said one of the biggest mistakes I feel is that if you've overbooked yourself for the day and panicking everybody about the next, like, I got to get seen because I have another audition, or I got to go back to work, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. Like, make sure you've padded your day so you have a little bit of leeway between one audition and the next. If one's across town, you don't want to, you really, and it's also, if you have an agent, like if an actor has an agent, the agent usually can take care of that. But you're like, if you're working without an agent and you have a hard time figuring out how to make a schedule work, you're always allowed to see if you can be seen earlier before someone else, but oftentimes that schedule is there for a reason, and there's nothing we can really do once the day has started. And if for some reason everything's running behind, that can be very frustrating. Me as a casting director, I'm totally cool if you need to leave and come back, if you need to go to another audition and come back because we're running behind. But if it has more to do with the fact that you didn't plan your schedule right, that's kind of like, I've had actors come to an audition way early and say, can I be seen now? Because I have another audition later today. And it just can, it's just so, I know this sounds mundane, but like, it can be so stressful on everybody. Like if you bring that energy to the outside of the room, like the monitor, I'm not always out there, I'm usually in the audition room, but like, if I come out and I sense there's like tension, or it doesn't help. So I'd say make sure that you have your day scheduled. Like I just recently had an actor say, hey, can I come later because I have another audition at 10? I was like, sure. And I moved her, because she asked me in time. It's the audition's next week. So like I had time to reschedule it, and no one's gonna suffer for it. She thought ahead. Think ahead about those things. Also, if you don't get the material that you're supposed to get, right? So somebody sent you an email and they said the sides are attached. The sides weren't attached. Tell us the sides weren't attached. Don't say, well, I didn't get the sides. I'm like, why didn't you? Usually one person tells me. There's always somebody like, I didn't see any sides attached. And I'm always like, great. And I resend the whole email. Usually I do that. But sometimes later in the game, like somehow or another, it doesn't get translated properly. So we'll have copies of the sides at the audition, right? They're waiting for you. And I always ask my assistants to make sure and go over with them, like, do they have the right material? Make sure they have a copy, blah, blah, blah. Here's a copy for you. Usually I used to be like, give it back. Now I'm like, you can keep it because of COVID, whatever. Like we make copies of the sides. There's nothing worse than when someone goes into that audition and the actor and then the director's like, well, do you have your sides? And the actor's like, I didn't get sides. It's like, what? How did you not get the sides? I don't know. Okay, so what happened? And the assistant out there is like, she just walked right past me and she just went into the audition. You never know why they didn't get the sides. But sometimes it's, oh, my agent didn't give it to me. Like, throw anyone you want under the bus. Don't just make sure that it doesn't happen. And the only way that doesn't happen is you always double check. So those are the things that I'd say. Make sure your time is good and make sure you have all the right materials. Even if we don't care if you're fully off book for these sides, because sometimes you get them the day before. It's okay if you read them. I mean, I would say you should be as off book as you can be and hold them as reference. Even with a new song, you can hold it.
Now, regarding getting things the day before, I know the difference for different auditions, but on average, how much time do you usually try to give actors to learn the material for callbacks?
Well, because it's theater, I usually give it to them like a week in advance. But if it's like brand new material, we might throw it to them at the audition. Like a scene,
Oh,
like
wow.
go away. You've got, half an hour, 45 minutes, come back and read this. Or can you, whenever you're ready, come in. That's usually what we say.
Yeah.
It's usually short. It's not usually like, we don't give them like the whole pile, it's not, no one's going to be that crazy.
Yeah.
Can you read all 7 sides? Yeah. I mean, some people are really good. Some people are really quick readers and quick studies and make choices really quickly. So that's a great skill to have. But I don't always, I expect in such a short period of time, when you get a cold read, ask whatever questions you can that will help you, and or do any research you can Googling, and then jump in with strong choices.
Does the same go for songs? I've heard some people said, actually, an actor, he's a Broadway actor that I think he was auditioning for Little Mermaid, the original cast of Little Mermaid on Broadway. And he said I think it was at a callback, and they said, oh, actually, well, thanks for singing this song, but can you also go outside and learn this song quickly for this other character and come back and sing it in like 30 minutes? So does that happen often too in, I guess, non-union auditions as well?
Sometimes, no. I mean, with a song, they'll at least go over it with them before. I mean, we've even taped stuff like, here's the melody, go outside and learn it. Like, we'll record it, right? Then, we'll do stuff, whatever we do. In certain instances, yeah, that could happen. It could happen. I'm not saying never. I won't say never. It could happen. It's happened. Yeah. We've asked people to learn songs, but like in 30 minutes, that actor, it's on them to be like, I can't learn a song in 30 minutes. And no one will hold it against them. They'll be like, well, what can we do to help? Let's put it on tape. Here's a track for you to learn it. Here's a track. Like, I'll email you the track right now. I mean, I've done that.
Yeah, and I guess it also depends if it's some, like you said, some people can do sides like this. Some people need like a week to sit with the sides.
Yeah, but reading music, some people can sight read and some people can't. So that's not, they have to hear it. And some people, even if they can sight read, it's not written exactly right, sometimes, or if it's written right, there's some groove. If it's a new musical, especially, that's crazy. Like if it's a known show and there's tons of recordings of it, you can learn it. Yeah, you can learn it. But if it's brand new material, that's kind of crazy to ask someone to learn it.
Yeah. I feel like if you're auditioning for like
a Little Mermaid, was kind of already known, but there's new songs in it.
It might have. He didn't specify. It might have been one of the songs that were already in the movie, so they were like, okay, this is like their Disney film, so
it's hard to say because it's hard to say because depending on what it was, it probably wasn't that out of the realm of their ear.
Yeah. Or maybe it was like a short little thing that it wasn't like,
I don't know. I mean,
here, learn this opera aria in 30 minutes. And
I mean, there's so much. What's so funny is like, because I used to be a singer, so like I'm like, I could learn that song. I could not have learned that. It's just like I just think that, and if I go into my apartment and say I'm going to learn the song right now, it's so much harder than like just hearing it. Oh, she's back.
Oh, there's the cat.
Here she is. Okay.
Kitty cat. Had to make an appearance, right?
Yeah, she was looking outside the window.
All right, everyone who's watching, we only have about 10 minutes left. So if anybody else has any questions, put them down in comments. I know most people these days don't watch live anymore because we all got busy suddenly, which is a good thing. And for those of you who will watch this later, if you have any other questions, make sure to either message this page or put them down in comments. I always read the comments and make sure to put the questions down for the next stream. So if anything, don't hesitate to ask. Speaking of next streams, stay tuned. On this page, I'll announce next streams. We have more casting directors and some agents and some actors coming, but stay tuned. I'm still figuring things out here. And for Alison, could we talk a little bit about video auditions? Just maybe a few tips on how to make, because I know they're different because they're on video, how to make that a successful audition.
Read the instructions over and over and over again. They're written a certain way for a reason, right? understand that we want it horizontal, not vertical. For some reason, people are still sending them vertically every now and then. I'm like, why? You know, I think sometimes for like a slate with a full body, people think they need the vertical to get to fit them in, but you could actually do it outside. Like you can go outside if you need more room. Like you don't have to do everything in a studio space. Lighting is important, as you know. Sound is important. I can look at all the badness and still find the talent though. So I'd rather you submit something even badly done. And I can, if I like your talent, I will work with that, whatever that means. Can you retape it? Oh, let's just bring him in, whatever. I've done it before. Terrible audition tape. You're good. The audition tape is terrible. You know, like that's because the work is still more important than we didn't expect you to be cinematographers. We didn't expect you to be technically savvy. We also feel terrible. And I'm the first one to be like, oh my God, everybody had to rent a studio space for this because they had to be in a certain kind of studio floor for women to be on point. They can't just go on point in the concrete. You know, in their carpeted floor or their wood floor, they have to have a specific kind of floor. And only certain studios have it. So I feel terrible about that, but do as much as you can at home. Have as much, so we don't feel, I mean, I don't want to feel guilty that you're spending money is really what I'm saying. I tell people you can use your iPhone. You know, the things you want to spend money on are a ring light, a backdrop, or just make sure you have some place in your house that's empty enough that you can film in front of it. Like nobody has to go out and buy a backdrop, although they're not that expensive, but you can have one wall painted a certain color that you think is good for self-taping. Could be white, could be gray, could be blue, whatever you want. Some people like that bright blue. I like it, but I'm totally fine with a white wall too. I'm not picky, or gray wall or whatever. Just make sure it's a good contrast to your skin tone and hair color, and dress appropriately. That means not too busy, you know, not too many accessories. Figure out how to do your makeup for camera. These are things that, like, for women and for men, like men can do a little, you know, concealer, powder, you know, draw in parts of your beard or whatever you got to do to look polished, shave properly, you know, glasses, no glasses. Glasses with the ring light can be tricky. So make sure those things are there. I mean, these are just technical things I'm battling about, but the most important thing again is your read. And for theater, if I know you're going to eventually be on stage, I'd like it not to be as close as I am right now, but really almost 3/4. So we get more of, you can use more of the space. You can do some of your, I always say if you have more than one take or more than one scene, I always say do one if you can full body. It can be your slate, it can be a song, it could be your scene, just so we have an idea of how you fill up a space. And sometimes there's a lot of bad angles. You want it to be straight.
Yeah.
You don't want to be looking up or down.
All right, thank you. And I feel like even coming back from the pandemic, the video auditions will probably be here to stay, right? Now that people know how easy it is to just submit the video auditions, maybe we'll just
I was using them before. I now have more people willing to do them. The new issue is, because I have been open to, with certain creative teams, to having Zoom auditions or Zoom callbacks, and for certain projects I'm sure it's been fine and it will be fine. But I think for certain other projects, we can't do that. And you just have to keep that in mind, that just because one person, or me sometimes, says, yeah, sure, we can do a Zoom callback, it doesn't mean that every creative team is going to be open to it. They might want to see you in person. And the opening up of, like, I can see somebody in Chicago, I can see somebody in Los Angeles, I can see somebody in Florida, I can see somebody who's from Michigan. That's great. But then it still comes down to, can you come to New York City for a callback, you know?
Yeah. All right. And one last question. When people submit to you, let's say it's for a specific role, or you put out a casting notice and someone submits the size or whatever it is that you asked for, are you okay with people also submitting demo reels? So something like, if you'd like more to see more, here's my website or here's my demo reel.
Totally fine with it. In fact, it's helpful. It's helpful. It's really helpful. Sometimes I don't need it. And sometimes it's great because it gives me the information I need to decide whether I'm either going to bring you, like if you submit for something, we say email stuff. I see no reason that you don't write, here's my headshot and resume, and here's a demo reel. No problem with that. I get a lot of emails like, hey, can I send you my headshot and resume? Yes. Here's my headshot and resume. Can I send you a demo reel? Yes. Here's a demo reel. Put it all in one. What am I going to do? Say, what did she do? Like, it doesn't fill up my box unless I open it on my computer. I have enough storage on my, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, maybe some people are picky about it, but I'm not. Send your demo reels. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I always ask that to every casting director because everybody has different preferences. So that's good to know.
As long as you're comfortable with that demo reel, if you're happy with it, like make sure everything on there is representative of who you want us to see. I also think having a website, having social media presence, and having a demo reel that you can send to us saves us from doing a Google search on you and finding things that you may not want us to find.
Mm-hmm. And maybe delete those things that you don't want people to.
You may not have control over that though. Like on a YouTube, you may have been in a show with another person and you were tagged in it and you can't change it. You know what I mean?
Oh yes, yeah. So if it was like a bad show or you didn't have a good night,
or a drunken night at Don't Tell Mamas, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. So yeah. So if you have your own website, your own demo reel, your own social media presence that you control, you curate, then you're in charge of all of it. It keeps us from doing some serious Google search.
Awesome. Well, that's the best advice ever. Make sure to send it before they see something that you don't want them to see.
Right.
All right, so we're pretty much out of time. So Alison, thank you so much for doing this.
No
this
problem.
was great. I know I will be rewatching this because usually, although I'm still listening to you, I'm also looking at comments. I usually miss a bunch of stuff, so it's
cool.
It's amazing. For those who are watching, if you want to rewatch, this will be available on Facebook and YouTube later on. So you can watch and rewatch all you want. And join us for later streams. They'll be announced on this page, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I do have a couple of projects scheduled. So in between those projects somewhere, I promise I'll schedule new streams. So once again, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Alison. And
thank you, Julia. This was fun. Have a great day.
Had fun.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.